quality is the best currency. People can smell a fake a mile away. That is becoming ever easier to do. And so I encourage everyone on there to act authentically, to be true to yourself, and just be human above all.
This is Career Composer. I'm Erin, and I'm helping you, professionals under 30, navigate your careers with a music-themed twist. I'm giving you the job search and career advice you need to get that job, but we'll also talk about music, how to balance our personal and professional lives, and figure out what we're meant to do. Ready? Let's go. Welcome back to another episode of Career Composer. I'm Erin Ahart. I'm a full-time career coach, and today I have a very special treat for you. We are welcoming back to the podcast LinkedIn top voice Ange Richard to tell us how we can grow on LinkedIn in 2026. This is your year to prioritize LinkedIn, cultivate your professional presence, and most importantly, build high quality, and I can't emphasize this enough, build high quality professional connections that will help you exponentially in your career. Today, we are learning from the best of the best. As a LinkedIn top voice, founder of her business, Professionally Unprofessional, and TEDx speaker, Ange Richard bridges generational gaps in the workplace as a sought-after Gen Z career coach. Currently pursuing her PhD at Boston College, she combines academic insight with practical lived experience to guide early career professionals through the complexities of today's intergenerational workforce. This episode really started with a focus on how to get more LinkedIn connections, because that's what most of us are wondering, right? How do I get to that magic 500 plus number so it looks like I have a lot of professional connections and I'm legit, like I'm a real person with a real reputation on LinkedIn? But this conversation goes so much deeper than that and really hits on all of the important points that we need to be thinking about as we grow our own networks and build our own reputations in our fields as Gen Z professionals. So stay tuned. Make sure you listen to this entire episode because you don't want to miss what Ange has to share. Without further ado, let's get into the episode with Ange, and I hope you enjoy. Ready? Let's go. Hi, Ange. Our listeners may remember you from our last conversation about Gen Z at work, and we are so excited to have you back on Career Composer to talk about how to get more LinkedIn connections. You are a Gen Z professional and a LinkedIn top voice with 15,000 followers on the platform. I think it's only fitting that we start today's session by learning, how did you rise to LinkedIn fame?
I'm so happy to be back, Erin. I'm so happy to be chatting about one of my favorite social media networking platforms. I love LinkedIn. I've been an active user on LinkedIn for 7 years, I think, maybe about 7 years, but actively posting and contributing for about the last 3.5. I got my top voice badge on January 9th, 2024. And people always ask me, how did you get that? You know, what was the process? I'll tell you, like I tell everybody else, I was at work, I was scrolling through my inbox, and I have an email from LinkedIn, which isn't unusual, right? I get notifications from the platform all the time. But this one says, congratulations, you've been named a LinkedIn top voice. And my community manager at the time sent me a separate email and said, congratulations, we're so happy to offer you this. We love your insights and contributions on the platform. So you're a top voice. And I had no idea it was coming. People think it's like, oh, you get reached out to and maybe you go through a process. I got an email and then I added the badge, and it's been that way ever since for almost 2 years. So that's how I got there. But I would say what got me on the map more or less was I had a post go viral in early 2023 about how hard the job search is. And that gave me about 1,000 followers overnight. Traction really picked up. And from there, I thought I always liked posting, but I wasn't sure, oh, should I do this? And that solidified for me, I'm going to do it.
And what is your primary topic that you post about on the platform?
Yeah, so I talk a lot about Gen Z, early career. I share some personal stories, around identity, first generation status, things like that, but primarily early career topics and very Gen Z focused topics.
Awesome. So jumping right into today's topic about how to get more LinkedIn connections, I think I speak for all of our listeners when I ask, why do I need connections on LinkedIn? And should I just hit the connect button and connect with people and hope that they connect with me? What's the secret sauce? Tell me more about that.
So when you do connect with someone on LinkedIn, you should have a motivation for doing so in mind. That doesn't have to be a very grandiose thing. It doesn't have to be that you met them and now after 5 conversations, you can finally connect with them. It doesn't have to be anything like that, but there should be a motivation. Every connection request should come with a note. Now, I know that LinkedIn has limited this capacity for folks who are not using premium, and that's something that really is irking me about LinkedIn right now. Is there are a lot of restrictions, and if you're not paying to play, there is a lot that you cannot do and cannot access on the platform, which is devastating because it is a connection first platform and is now evolving in ways that are abandoning that, sort of origin, which is too bad. But all that to say, when connecting with people, and I think, even more important today, is to make sure that those connections are meaningful and worthwhile for you. Now, I will say, if you're a student and you're in school and you're in that process of building your LinkedIn profile, could you just hit connect with one of your classmates who knows you? Totally. I don't think you have to add a note there. But anyone who is maybe a faculty member or a supervisor or someone in your discipline who you don't know directly, but you want to be in their community, for those kinds of connections, always add a note, always personalize that invitation. And again, with the free version, you do have to make the most of those connections. And so whether it is, connecting directly or maybe commenting under the content that they share or getting recognized in another way on the platform, it's really, really important. And we do need those connections. We do need that LinkedIn profile to be current, complete, discoverable, all that good stuff. And we'll talk more about that.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about what the reasons for connecting with someone really are, because I remember when I was in my senior year at Penn State University, I had this friend who hit that 500 plus number, and everyone was talking about how once you get to 500 plus LinkedIn connections, you're set. You're more searchable. You have more credibility. You seem like an actual person who has a LinkedIn profile. And so at that point, I was thinking, well, I should just hit connect all the time. But now that of course, I'm a career coach, that's not my approach anymore. But I think that's confusing for people. And I also think the same way that we're unsure about how to handle certain social situations in a professional capacity, I think there's a lot of questions about how to use a social networking and social media platform professionally. What are the rules? What do I do? And how is this going to help me? And what's the purpose of it?
Yeah, great points all around. I would say when it comes to, amassing those connections and maybe reaching this ideal of a complete profile or a well-connected person, I always remind myself that quality is the best currency. I would much rather come across someone who has 400 connections and I can see that those folks are very core to their community. It's not just anybody, versus someone that is amassing just dozens and dozens of dozens. And I can see they have a low engagement rate. Things aren't really seeming very connected there. Quality is the best currency. And, a new feature with LinkedIn in the last couple of years is this ability to have a creator profile as it's moved into more of a social media platform. That also changes things for folks. So if you were to go to me right now in my profile, you would see a follow button, not a connect button. And so you'd have to go into the 3 little dots on my profile and actually hit connect. Connect isn't the first thing that comes up. So people will say all the time, like, oh, I connected with you on LinkedIn. I'm like, no, you didn't. You followed me. But, you're still engaged in my community. And that's a little bit of nuance now as well, depending on how you would like to use LinkedIn and what your purpose for being on the platform is. For me, it serves many, right? It is my kind of ever living resume, my personal brand. It's where I get business. It's where I meet people like you. It's where I connect with folks who are directly in my discipline. It's for connecting with folks at conferences. Like it serves so many purposes for me. For the typical user who is using it as a job search platform, networking platform, quality is the best currency. People can smell a fake a mile away. That is becoming ever easier to do. And so I encourage everyone on there to act authentically, to be true to yourself, send messages that are intentional, clearly crafted by you, and just be human above all. There's a lot of scam messages on LinkedIn, a lot of promotional messages, things that are just kind of AI slop is the affectionate term that I've been hearing, and using to kind of categorize some content that appears there. So quality is your best currency, no matter if it's connecting with people, sharing ideas, all that good stuff.
That's a sigh of relief to know that it's about quality. It's about the connection. I've heard you say the word connection, connected, and community. And community. So it really sounds like making connections and building community on the platform is also really important. So what should I be doing before I connect with someone, maybe through my profile, through what I'm posting, to show them who I am as a professional, that I am a real person, that I'm human, I'm authentic, I'm not a fake, I'm not AI, but also demonstrate that I am actually trying to build that community and build connections with others?
So this is a great question. And before I start, I don't think there's one right answer. I mean, people approach LinkedIn in so many different ways. There is so much advice out there. There are so many ways a profile can look. At the end of the day, I emphasize a complete profile. And LinkedIn will tell you when you first start creating your profile, the steps you need to take to make it complete in the eyes of LinkedIn. And I would follow those eyes. I would follow that guidance. But beyond that, can you add a banner photo that is created by you in Canva, let's say, or some other design platform that's very unique to you? Can you add a piece of your work or a website or a feature to the featured section so folks can learn more about you outside of what are you saying in your experience? What are your skills? All that. How are you making your about section sound less robotic and more you? Are you sharing, right? Can you pin a post that you share? There are many things that you can do, and that's what I love about LinkedIn. There's kind of something to take advantage of its benefits for everyone. If you don't want to post content all the time, by no means do you have to. You can engage in a myriad of other ways, so many other ways. So I would say that complete profile, really important when you are trying to actively connect with people. If you are looking at your profile right now and you don't have a banner photo, you don't have an about section, your experience is very limited, update it. Make it seem like it's a real human back there. And LinkedIn allows you to do a verification with a ID. Do that because there are a lot of folks who may be impersonating or their profiles are not connected to a real human. That is an extra step of validity and safety that you can promote to your community. And just above all, I think we get very in our heads about networking. There's a lot that we may tell ourselves about the perfect approach or the right message to send. And sure, some of that information is helpful, but I just remember, be yourself, be human, send a message that is warm and inviting and helpful, inspiring, whatever the tone needs to be. And everybody on there is a human too. They're doing the best that they can. If you're trying to connect with folks who have more of a presence or a following, I'd say give them some time, give them some patience, or try to connect with them elsewhere. Like for me, I try to tell people, do not send me a LinkedIn DM anymore because they are just chocked full and I may not get to it. Grab my email from my contact info. I'm much more likely to respond there first and foremost than I would a LinkedIn DM. So all that to say, give yourself grace, approach it like you would any other conversation, and just, be yourself.
If you're a Gen Z professional looking for answers to your career questions, this is for you. I'm launching a new series on Career Composer called Ask Erin, where you can call in and get free personalized career advice in exchange for sharing your story on the podcast. No question is too big or too small and can help someone else who's probably wondering the same exact thing. And you can stay anonymous. Email careercomposerpodcast@gmail.com to get started. Just use the words Ask Erin in the subject line. If you have a question but don't want to come on the podcast, you can still email me at careercomposerpodcast@gmail.com, and I might just answer your question in a future episode. Let's get back into it. building your profile is so important because when you go to connect with someone, if they don't know you, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to look at your profile to figure out who you are. Something I've heard you talk about before is that LinkedIn can almost operate as a digital resume. And I've also heard you talk about storytelling through your profile. What do you mean by that?
Well, LinkedIn is often our destination, whether it's employers or work opportunities. It's where people go to find more about you if they don't have your resume in hand. Or at least that's what I tell people. That's where they should be directed to learn more about you if they don't have your details already. So when I say LinkedIn is kind of like your living resume, it really is. It does function that way. That's why LinkedIn Recruiter is so popular, right? If recruiters are looking for potential candidates for their roles, they're connecting certain keywords and pieces of information and education levels to profiles to find the right people. Just like you submitting a resume to a job description or a job posting, it goes through an applicant tracking software. LinkedIn Recruiter and other recruiting platforms are working the same way, just with your profile. So it really is your living resume. I like to put more content on there than on my resume. My resume has a little bit more tailoring depending on where I'm applying. LinkedIn is more of a catch-all space. And again, I'm speaking as someone who is also running a business. So I have a bit of a different angle sometimes. I also have a company page on LinkedIn that I'm always tagging in things and that has its own content and is a presence on there. So I have a little bit of a different approach, but all that to say, LinkedIn is where your experiences, your skills, your background, all of that good stuff should be accessible to someone who wants to connect with you or someone you want to connect with. It's hard to manually email everyone and attach your resume. LinkedIn can act as that in a very sophisticated and accessible way.
Yeah, you're definitely right there. LinkedIn is a catch-all for me too, whereas my resume looks a little bit different. But I try to tell a story with my LinkedIn profile, and I think the way that I do this the best is in my LinkedIn bio. So, of course, my brand name is Career Composer, and sometimes people are wondering, what's the connection between career coaching and music? And when someone goes to my LinkedIn bio, they read a very concise, very brief story of how my music background connects to where I am today. I thought I was going to be a music educator. And then a couple of things happened along the way that completely changed my path for the better. And I'm also using that bio, not just to tell a story, but to speak on my strengths through storytelling. So what strengths does being a musician bring to career coaching? There actually are strengths that come from that someone would only know through reading my bio. That's something they could also never get from my resume, which I think is pretty cool.
That's awesome. And such a great example of how to leverage that very important section on your LinkedIn profile. Do not skip the about. Do not skip that bio space. It's so useful and it's there for a reason.
Exactly. So for people who are just getting started with posting on LinkedIn, what are some content options for people who want to start sharing and want to start building their digital resume and building that community?
I love this because I love brainstorming content on my own. I'm always thinking about, could I do a carousel of this? And I usually think back to things that I hear in my work or every day and what are the things that come up all the time? How can I talk about them differently? For someone who's just starting out, for students especially, a semester in review, a monthly recap, a conference you've been to, those are so, I think, pretty low-hanging fruit to just pull some content, pull some summative things that have happened to you. Just list them. Tell us what's going on. Doesn't have to be thought leadership, doesn't have to be a new idea, a challenge to something. Very, very easy content and also very you. It's very tied to your experience, your background, your identity, all of these things. That's where I encourage people to start. For folks who are kind of testing the water, LinkedIn really enjoys reactions to things that are going on in the news, in your industry, world of work. They love that. Follow LinkedIn news and see what kinds of things are being talked about. Talk about those topics. Talk about the things that are actively going on in your industry. LinkedIn also loves a Remembrance Month, a Heritage Month, some other kind of honoring or remembering like celebration. Anything tied to those areas is really, really great. And for me, content that works really well and has consistently worked well is any kind of storytelling, sharing about my first gen experience, sharing about something that happened at work, sharing about how I botched a salary negotiation very early in my career with the Puma Group. And that was really devastating. Like things like that, people really latch onto and love. LinkedIn does not like engagement pods or posts that tag a bunch of people just for the sake of getting extra engagement that is not very organic. Those things are not very helpful. So I would start with, recap, semester in review, talk about that conference you went to, talk about that panel you sat in on, and kind of build from there. And also test and see what works well. That's the most important part of content, right? Is you have all of these ideas, you boil them down to the things that you're excited about, you test them out, use your audience feedback, use your community feedback to decide, okay, here's my next step. That was positive. This was maybe not as engaging. How can I modify it? How do I pivot? And we can go from there. We can have a whole content strategy session.
Yeah. And one of the biggest fears that I hear from my clients is the fear that I'm bragging too much or that what I'm sharing on LinkedIn isn't valuable. What do you say to that?
I have had to let go of any of those fears or feelings of imposter syndrome or feeling like I'm being cringe a long time ago. When I tell you legitimately now, I do not care. I do not care how I am perceived or any of that. Again, like 2 years ago, I would have been very nervous and very careful and maybe very apprehensive to share something. Now I'm like, I don't care. I really don't care. And that takes time, and that journey is a little bit different for everyone. But talking about your achievements and the things that you do is never bragging. You're not sharing them at the expense of somebody else or to put someone else down. You're sharing the amazing things that are going on in your career and in your life. Those things are awesome. Do not ever feel like you need to play down your accomplishments, your achievements, just to cater to the folks in the room around you. Not at all. Yeah, I think that's all I got to say.
There's nothing wrong with celebrating yourself. And even if you haven't gotten past that fear yet, like that fear that I'm bragging too much, how can you post something that's going to potentially help somebody else? I think is another angle. So what's something that you learned that was really insightful or inspiring to you at work this week, or that you learned from an article that you read, from a conference that you attended, like you had mentioned? What's something that you learned that could potentially benefit someone else? So I think that's a good place to start too. But I will say, I'm just being honest, I have not gotten past that fear of being cringe or posting something that's not valuable yet. And I'm going to blame it on my sister because she was TikTok famous and she was sponsored by the NFL from a really viral trend that she started in high school. But I'm going to try and take your advice too. I'm sure our listeners are going to take your advice. It doesn't matter. The cringe doesn't matter. This is my reminder. This is a reminder to our listeners.
I love that you shared that. And something that comes to mind for me is LinkedIn is my best performing platform. I think I am way better via writing than I am in front of the camera. I really do. And Instagram tells me that. Like TikTok tells me that. I would much rather write and share an image as opposed to talk. Podcasts I really like this medium I love, but a short form kind of quippy style, it's just not my best medium. So it's a little bit harder for me to build that traction there. LinkedIn's my best performing platform by far. I get the most engagement, the most consistent followings, all that good stuff. I'm still learning what do I need to do and how do I need to modify my voice, my content, my approach, etc. to these other avenues. Whereas a lot of folks have the inverse. Like they may do really well on TikTok and Instagram, but LinkedIn, they're like, I would never touch that. That is just not my medium. That's not my preferred place. Totally fine. And one more reminder, there is always someone, at least one person who will resonate with what you say, who will be impacted by what you do. It doesn't have to be 1 million people giving you positive feedback. It can be one. And that matters, I'd argue, more to build that community, to build that understanding, to build that circle of trust and shared resources and all of that. that's really important as you're especially beginning to grow anywhere.
And one more fear that I want to point out. I've just been having a lot of my students and clients bring this up to me lately. And I'm just curious if you've heard this too, but people are really worried that posting on LinkedIn is going to negatively impact their digital footprint. Whereas I'm thinking as a career coach, oh no, posting on LinkedIn can really help you. It builds social proof and it's evidence that you are the professional that you say you are. But there are so many people I've met who think that it's going to negatively impact them when it comes to the job search.
I have heard that. And I struggle with it. I do. We're seeing a huge entrepreneurial shift in the world of work, especially among early career folks. To make that money, to be that entrepreneur, to have that status, LinkedIn is a great place to go for that. And I've heard folks who have struggled to talk about their own private venture or business or thing that they have to the same weight or degree as their past corporate job or the official 9 to 5 that they had. Employers aren't seeing that content or an entrepreneurial avenue or a side hustle. They don't weigh that the same. They may even see it as a liability. I mean, we see these creators all the time who quit their full-time jobs to pursue their full-time content because they have to. They are at risk with their employer, right? They may not be able to take a certain contract or a brand deal because of their employer's regulations. I asked my employer when I started sharing on LinkedIn, am I allowed to do this? And do you have any qualms or requests or things that I should keep in mind as I share? And they happily told me, probably because of the nature of the work that I do professionally and personally and privately, like, and you give us no reason to worry about the content that you share. If you ever do give us a reason to feel some type of way, we will let you know. And they've never let me know. So I've been good, but there is definitely a different reaction and view from the world of work toward content, toward digital presence, toward an entrepreneurial adventure. So I get that tension. I do get that. And that's something that I think about in hindsight sometimes. But I also remind myself, I don't want to be ever in a space or working with an employer that does not value this aspect of myself, this goal that I have, this journey that I'm on, this thing that I'm pursuing. I wouldn't want to be there anyway. So I'm not going to even enter those spaces in the first place. That's kind of how I deal with it.
Yeah. And if you're not pursuing entrepreneurship, you're not pursuing thought leadership, and you're not sharing at the level that you and I are sharing, that's okay too. And you can absolutely still make your LinkedIn work for you and impact you so positively by keeping your post to what you're doing in your 9 to 5 corporate job. You can absolutely still build community, get more LinkedIn connections by keeping your posts really focused too. And that is totally okay.
100%. I couldn't agree more. I think one of the really scary things, but that I hope is really empowering for a lot of people, is that agency. You get to do whatever you need to. You get to make LinkedIn work for you. You get to make your personal brand work for you. It's all up to you. And that is so, so awesome at the end of the day.
Yeah. I feel like I know so much more about LinkedIn now. Let's say that I've taken your advice. I'm using LinkedIn to build a community. I have used my profile to build my digital resume. When I want to connect with someone, because I'm ready to connect, I found these people I want to connect with, I'm ready to grow. How do I send that message?
I would always add a note. Anytime I receive a request to connect and it doesn't have a note, I'm already kind of skeptical and sort of wonder, well, why? I then go in to look at, do we have mutual connections? And I can see, oh, okay, we're in the same industry, same discipline. Yeah, I think I do want to connect with you. If you supply a note, that already tells me your intentionality, that shows me exactly why you're reaching out. And I practice that as well. Anytime I connect with someone new, 90% of the time, I'm attaching a note. And I usually say, I'm looking forward to learning from you. I hope I'm able to add you to my network and to my community. I'll try to point out something from their profile, their experience, something that they shared that I really liked and connected with. And so I try to show that level of personability, of attention that I paid to the work that they're doing. So it should contain those kinds of elements. And I don't think there's a perfect formula. I don't think there's a perfect way to go about it. And I also learned recently that I, as a premium user, have more characters to send in that note than someone who is a free user, which is just ridiculous. And quite frankly, I love LinkedIn so much. It's given me so much, but that is ridiculous and a really unfortunate move by the platform. So you have to maximize that space the best that you can. Try to be personal, try to be pointed, and try to be nice, try to be kind, try to be human at the end of the day. And again, make those connections wisely. Just because you see someone on LinkedIn doesn't mean that they have to get added to your network. If you want to see more of the things that they do, turn on their notifications, follow them if that's an option, maybe track their name in a spreadsheet if you want to see more from them. Not everyone has to be a connection. It's better to connect with folks who you have mutuals with if you can. Granted, if there's someone, third degree out, totally fine. Send a note, see what happens. But again, at the end of the day, I feel like we're all trying to add connections and collect as many eggs as possible. We don't have to be doing that. Keep your community close. Keep your inner network and your challenge network close.
If I want to send someone a longer message, is it okay to send them a longer message when they do accept that invite? Is that something that would be okay?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because then at that point too, you're not wasting an in-mail credit on someone that may not even ever see that message, because a lot of times those in-mail notes will go to the other area of your inbox as opposed to focused. And I have lost people that send me in-mails and they're not, sales pitches. They're just real people who want to connect with me or saw something about me or maybe want to work with me. And I have to apologize and go, I'm so sorry. I didn't even see this. It ended up in other. So if you can connect first with the personalized invite, try to go that route, then send them a message, because again, you will not be using an in-mail credit to reach out to them because they'll already be in your network.
Yeah, I had no idea that happens. Honestly, I didn't even know it goes into the other inbox. LinkedIn really has to get their act together.
They sure do. Maybe go check that other inbox, Erin.
Yeah, I'm afraid to now.
I know.
Well, thank you so much, Ange. This has been so helpful. I hope that our listeners feel more confident with not only building their professional presence on LinkedIn, but also reaching out to people. Just reach out. Just connect with people. Worst comes to worst. We're all professionals. We're all trying to grow in our careers, and people understand that, and they are trying to do the same thing too. I already asked you in our previous episode, what's your favorite song, favorite album, favorite artist, because that's my bread and butter. I ask every guest that question. But one last non-work related question for you. What brings you joy outside of work?
Something that I have been loving this year and that I never thought that I would say I love is yoga. I used to be one of those folks who could just never get into it. It always felt too slow for me. I'd always be like, oh, it's almost a waste of movement or a waste of time. Now I love it. I am on track to have completed 50 classes this year, and I just love it. And I did not think that I'd be someone who would get into the spiritual and emotional and also physical aspects of the practice, but I have seriously been loving it. It's done so much for my mental health and just my wellness, and I am so proud of that. I've loved it. Do you do yoga?
So I recently got a used Peloton, and I've been doing some of the yoga Pilates classes that come with the Peloton class subscription. So I've been loving that. More so Pilates, because I'm able to convince myself that it's a better workout, but it's not. I struggle with the sitting still. I have ADHD, and I just my mind is always racing, and so meditation has never worked for me either. So I'm very curious if you have any tips to get in the zone for yoga, because it does have so many great benefits. I truly just can't sit still.
And that was me, Erin, a few years ago. I'm telling you, it always felt like, oh, this is a waste, or I could be doing more with my time and working out harder. I lift weights, I run, I do these other more physical intense things. And then I balance it with this lower impact, kind of lower pace. And I do hot yoga. So I feel like it has an added, oomph to it. I think finding the class, finding the studio that works well for you, instructors can make a huge difference. It takes a lot to sort of unlearn and unpack maybe some of that hesitation to slowing down. But once you can start to go through that process and unwind some of those beliefs of, well, it has to be vigorous for it to count, it feels so good. We can talk about that in another one.
Yeah. Well, hot yoga is no joke. No
Tell
joke.
me about it.
That is tough. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. I think the outside of work hobbies and activities that keep us grounded and keep us sane are just as important as the work conversations. So thank you. And before I forget, Ange, how can people get in touch with you? How can they see all of the amazing, so helpful content that you post on LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok?
Absolutely. So I am active on Instagram and TikTok at Early Career Corner, and you can find me on LinkedIn if you search Ange Richard. I should pop up. And you're always welcome to email me as well, ange@angerichard.com.
Awesome. Well, I can't say thank you enough. I can't wait to see what questions and conversations come from these episodes. Your advice is so valuable, and I know our listeners appreciate it. So thank you so much, Ange.
Thanks for having me, Erin. Thanks for curating these amazing conversations. Thank you for composing these amazing conversations. And we'll see you soon.
What a compliment. All right. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed this conversation with Ange as much as I did. You can stay up to date on all things Career Composer by following us on Instagram and TikTok at Career Composer, or by following me on LinkedIn at Erin A. Hart. Please make sure you check out all of Ange's amazing content. She provides some really incredible insights into the world of work and how to navigate all of this chaos as young professionals. So make sure you check out her social media that she listed in the episode today. Again, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.